There are families that don't scream, don't hit, don't curse, but they do something crueler. They turn one person into the backup plan for years. When they want to have fun, that person stays behind to handle the hard part. When they want peace, that person is expected to stay quiet and swallow it. And on Thanksgiving, they'll even leave a note cold as an invoice saying, "We went to a show with your brother's family." Consider this your caregiving experience. The target is always the same, the one who's closest, the one who's softest, the one who's been trained to think, fine, as long as grandma's okay. People love to say, family comes first, but if family only means your sacrifice and their comfort, what exactly are you holding on to? Before we dive into today's story, let us know where you're tuning in from. It's always amazing to see where our stories travel. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next twist in this journey. Now, let's listen to him from the heart. They always call the one who's closest. It was 8:12 in the morning. My coffee had already gone cold, my inbox was swelling with unread messages, and I hadn't even touched the design files that were due by the end of the day. But my brain wasn't on work. Not really. It never fully was anymore. Instead, it was split-fractured by the usual dread that came with waking up to the first buzz of a text from my mother. I live alone in a modest one-bedroom apartment in Asheville, North Carolina. It's quiet, filled with plants I try not to kill and coffee mugs I rarely wash on time. It should have been a place of peace. But when you're the only adult child within a 15-minute radius of your aging grandmother and you're self-employed with a flexible schedule, peace becomes a theory, not a practice. My phone buzzed again. "Stellan, please stop by today. Nona's meds are running low. Also, check her BP log and confirm the Thursday appointment. We'll be tied up all day." Tied up. That's what they always said. I glanced at my hands. They were cracked and dry from years of alcohol wipes and hand sanitizer. I hadn't even realized I'd internalized the caregiver routine until my knuckles started splitting every winter like clockwork. Most families, I think, run on love. Mine runs on delegation. And when they say family duty, what they really mean is, Stellan will do it. I sighed, threw on a hoodie, and grabbed my keys. The house I grew up in sits just outside Asheville, a pale blue colonial with white shutters and a porch swing that no one has used in 10 years. It's where my grandmother Winona, or Nona, as everyone calls her, lives now. After she broke her hip 2 years ago, my parents insisted it was best she stay with them for supervision. But supervision quickly became surveillance, and that job fell to me. By the time I arrived, the driveway was empty. Of course it was. Mom and Dad had important errands. Evan and Lila, my brother and sister-in-law, were overwhelmed with the kids' schedules. But Nona. She was right where she always was, slumped gently in her armchair by the window, a crocheted blanket pulled over her lap, the television flickering on mute. I did my rounds. Checked the med organizer, restocked her pills for the next few days, reviewed her blood pressure log, scribbled down the upcoming appointments, tossed expired yogurt from the fridge, and wiped the kitchen counter clean. All of this without a single question from anyone about how I was doing. Then came the familiar script. "Stellan, you're the only one who really understands how to care for her," Mom said over the phone when she finally called. "You've always had such a gentle soul." That line, "gentle soul," makes me want to scream. It's not a compliment. It's a code word for "you're the one we can guilt the easiest." When I mentioned I had deadlines, she didn't argue. She just dismissed. "Well, you can work at night, can't you?" I didn't respond. While she talked, I wandered into the living room. Nona was still in the chair, her eyes half closed. "You doing all right today, Nona?" I asked softly. No answer. I stepped closer. She stirred slightly. Her head turned. And then something strange. For the briefest moment, her eyes locked on mine. Not cloudy or lost like usual. Sharp, calculating. Her lips didn't move, but her gaze. It lingered, like she was measuring something in me. I reached for the small black notebook tucked between the cushion and the side of the chair, one I hadn't noticed before. The second my fingers brushed it, her hand shot out fast, too fast. She clutched the notebook and pulled it into her blanket, then slumped back, closing her eyes again like she'd never moved. A chill ran through me. I stood there for a long beat trying to shake it off. Then I gathered my bag and slipped out. Back home, I collapsed on the couch, drained. I thumbed through my phone and opened my texts. Jules. You alive in there? I tapped back a half-joke. Me barely. I think I got gaslit by a woman in a bathrobe today. She called me instantly. You're not doing great, Jules said after I filled her in. You don't even realize how much this is breaking you down, do you? I'm fine, I lied. I hated how weak it felt to even complain. I was so used to absorbing the weight that saying it out loud made me feel dramatic. Selfish. It's just Thanksgiving week, I told myself. Same as every year. Except as I crawled into bed and set my alarm, my phone buzzed again. 6 missed calls. All from Mom. Something in my chest tightened. This year wasn't going to be the same. I felt it. The call came at 7:03 a.m. I hadn't even brushed my teeth when the screen lit up with her name. Again. Stellan Mom's voice came through sharp, clipped with a note of disappointment. You didn't answer yesterday. I called twice. I was working, I said. Deadlines. A beat of silence. Well, we have exciting news. She continued, shifting gears so fast it gave me whiplash. We're doing something special for Thanksgiving this year. I already knew I wouldn't like whatever was coming next. She launched into it. They'd booked a 3-day trip to New York City Broadway shows, hotel reservations, dinner with old friends. Just the 4 of us, she said brightly. 4, I repeated. Mom didn't miss a beat. Me, Dad, Evan, and Lila. My stomach dropped. So, I'm not invited. You've got something even more important, she replied sweetly. You'll be staying with Nona. It's only for 3 days, darling. My jaw clenched. You didn't even ask me. Her tone shifted immediately. Stellan, she's your grandmother. She's your mother, I shot back. When was the last time you stayed with her overnight? Mom didn't answer that. Instead, she went for the dagger. I just thought you of all people would understand how much this means to us. You know how to be compassionate. There it was, the manipulation cocktail. 1 part guilt, 1 part martyrdom, 1 part flattery. I'm not doing it, I said flatly. I have plans. Silence on the other end. Then fine. I'll let your father call you. She hung up. I barely had time to process it before my phone rang again. Dad. His voice was calm, measured. Hey, son. I understand you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. You think, we're not asking you to give up your life, Stellan. Just to step in for a few days. It would mean a lot. You've never asked, I snapped. You've always assumed. More silence. Look, he finally said, if 3 days is too much, maybe you could just stop by Thursday morning. She's been asking about you. That stopped me. Not because I believed him, but because of how fast he shifted. Dad was never quick to compromise. If he was offering a smaller ask, it was because there was a bigger setup behind it. Still, I agreed. Cautiously. Morning only, I said. I'm not staying overnight. Of course, he said too easily. That's perfect. After the call, I paced my apartment, restless. Something felt off. Too smooth. I called Jules again. They're baiting you, she said without hesitation. They want you to say yes to the small thing so they can trap you with the big thing. I know, I muttered. But I need to show up, just once. Otherwise, they'll weaponize it for months. Then you show up, she said. But you say this out loud and often. I'm here for a visit. I am not the caregiver this week. Say it until it's in their bones. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Thanksgiving morning was 2 days away. I sent a quick text to confirm. Me, I'll swing by Thursday morning for a visit. Not staying. Just visiting. Mom's reply came instantly. Perfect. That word. It chilled me more than it should have. Like she'd been waiting for it. Like the plan had already started, and I'd just walked right into it. I woke up early on Thanksgiving morning with a plan so clear in my head it felt laminated. I wasn't staying. I wasn't getting roped into another guilt-laced weekend of silent martyrdom. Just a visit, short, polite, and on my terms. I packed a modest tote, a few pre-cut fruit cups that herbal tea Nona liked with the little lemon bees on the box, her arthritis gel, and a printout of some photos I'd taken on a hike last month. The kind of things you bring when you're dropping in, not setting up camp. The drive back to my parents' house in the Asheville suburbs was quiet. Fog hung low over the Blue Ridge, giving everything a hushed kind of suspense. I pulled into the driveway and noticed the first red flag before the engine was even off. No cars. Not my dad's old Buick, not Mom's CRV. Evan's SUV wasn't there either. I frowned. Maybe they were out grabbing coffee. Or maybe the show started early. Still, it felt off. Inside, the lights were on, but the house was dead silent. No clatter of plates, no smell of stuffing. Just stillness and the faint hum of the refrigerator. "Hello," I called out already, knowing I wouldn't get an answer. I passed through the living room and saw her, Nona. Curled on her usual chair, bundled under a fleece blanket, eyes closed, mouth slightly open. Fragile and small. I froze for a beat, instincts firing. I stepped closer and touched her wrist, warm pulse, steady. Relief. But still something felt rehearsed. I moved to the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. A single sheet of paper sitting square in the center of the island, weighted by the salt shaker like it was trying not to blow away from the truth it held. My stomach turned before I even read it. The handwriting was unmistakably Mom's, those tight, determined loops. It said, "Gone to a show with your brother's family, so we'll let you experience caregiving. Food's in the fridge. No thank you. No hope this isn't too much." Just that cold, clipped tone that always dressed up manipulation as responsibility. I stood there for a long time, the silence now suffocating. They hadn't just left. They'd planned this, constructed it. There was no backup care, no call to ask if I was available, no hint of negotiation. Just assumption, just orders disguised as fate. I stared at the paper. My fingers curled around it, crumpled it, then smoothed it back out again. Part of me wanted to walk right back out and let the house sit empty. But I knew how that story would be spun. He abandoned her. He left an old woman alone on a holiday. That's the trap, isn't it? They don't chain you down, they just make sure every exit leads to shame. I turned back toward Nona. She hadn't moved. Same blanket, same half-open mouth. I sighed. "Guess it's just you and me today," I muttered, moving to set the tea on the counter. And then movement. In the corner of my eye, something shifted. I turned fully and my breath caught in my throat. She was sitting up. Not groggily, not confused, but with precision. Her back straight, eyes clear. She stood. No wobble, no hesitation. She looked right at me, her voice crisp. "Shall we begin?" I didn't answer right away. I just stared, my mind rewriting itself in real time. Finally, I nodded. My phone buzzed sharp and sudden. I glanced down. Mom. Of course. Her name lit up the screen like a warning siren. She knew. And somehow I knew this was the moment she'd been timing all along. I didn't pick up. I let the phone buzz until the screen went black again. Then I looked at Nona. Really looked. She was fully upright, barefoot, but steady. Her hand braced on the back of the chair for effect more than support. The blanket had slipped to the floor. There was nothing frail in her expression. No fog, no confusion. "You're not—" I started but couldn't finish. She saved me the trouble. "No, I'm not confused. I haven't been in a while." I opened my mouth again, closed it, sat down. She turned toward the hallway. "Lock the door," she said, "then grab your phone. You'll want to take pictures." Of what? Everything. She wasn't kidding. In the kitchen, I snapped photos of the paper with her tea-stained mug beside it, the timestamp on the microwave, the untouched casserole dish in the fridge, the quiet driveway from the front window. I even caught the flashing red dot of the Ring camera by the door, recording a whole day's worth of nothing. When I came back, she was seated again, a worn leather notebook in her lap. I knew that notebook. It was the one I'd tried to peek at weeks ago, the one she'd pulled away like a reflex. She handed it to me. Inside were pages of neatly written entries, dated and underlined, notes about conversations, observations, Direct quotes from my parents, my brother Lila. They think I don't remember, she said. So they talk in front of me, even when they're plotting. She pointed to one entry. October 12th, Marianne says, "We'll go to the show. Stellan will cave if we leave it in his lap." Gordon laughs. Evan says, "Good, maybe it'll knock the city out of him." I read it twice. She tapped the next entry. October 29th. They rehearse the story about dementia. Gordon reminds them to say I get worse in the evenings. Marianne says I'll play along, she likes him. I looked up stunned. "You've been keeping a record." "For over a year," she said. "Ever since I started seeing what they were doing. I let them think I was too far gone. It made them careless." "And the tea?" I asked. "The naps." "Sometimes I was tired," she admitted with a shrug. "But most times I was listening." I flipped ahead. Pages of it. Quotes. Times. What medication she was given and by whom. When they started locking her checkbook in the file drawer. "They're trying to get guardianship," she said. Or at least that was the plan. "Gordon's been talking to a lawyer." My skin prickled. "What for?" "To sign over power of attorney. But they need me confused. Or better yet, gone." It hit me then. The show wasn't about the show. It was a smokescreen. A chance to catch me in the act, to let them come home to whatever narrative they needed. "He's not stable," he lashed out. She got scared. "We need to step in for her safety." I sat back. "So what now?" She reached into the cushion beside her and handed me another list. 3 steps. Simple. Chilling. Step 1. Document everything. The note, the house, her clarity, the carless driveway. Check. Step 2. Call your mother. Calmly. Tell her she has 1 hour to return. Don't yell, don't plead. Just a deadline. Give her the chance to make the right call. Step 3. If they return and start spinning stories, don't argue. Don't try to win. Let them hang themselves on their own words and call the elder care ombudsman. You want me to threaten them with legal action? I want you to remind them they're not invisible. I stared at the list. 3 lines. Years of exhaustion condensed into a single page. I picked up my phone again. Dialed. Before pressing call, Nona reached out and pressed her palm over my wrist. "Say only 3 sentences," she said softly. "Keep them short. Keep them sharp. Time is the only thing that scares them now." The phone rang. Once, twice. Then I heard her voice, and I was ready. I dialed. The phone rang once, then again. My thumb hovered over the speaker icon, but I kept it at my ear. I needed to hear her raw, not filtered. "Stellan." My mother answered, her voice sweet like syrup left too long in the sun. "Everything okay with Grandma?" I didn't respond right away. I stared at the paper still on the counter, the one she'd signed with casual cruelty. "I'm standing in your kitchen," I said calmly. "Right now. Looking at the note you left. The one under the salt shaker. I've taken a photo of it. Time stamped. Clear as day." There was a pause. Barely a breath. "I told you I'd drop by this morning, not stay for 3 days. I didn't agree to caregiving, you know that." Her voice slid right back into gear. "Honey, you're already there. Let's just breathe, okay? No need to make this a thing. No need to make this a thing." That's always been her trick. Naming the discomfort as mine. As if I was conjuring the storm. She tried again. "Con, this is family. We all make sacrifices sometimes." I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so textbook. "Con," she said, "you can't leave her alone. You're not that kind of person. You'll do the right thing." That did it. My throat tightened, my teeth clenched, because to her my boundaries were just background noise, static to be tuned out. I breathed in, deep, measured. Then I gave her the 3 sentences, sharp and final. "You have 1 hour to return," I said. "If no one's back by then, I'll be contacting Adult Protective Services and reporting this as abandonment of an elder. I will stay for exactly 1 hour. And if the house is still empty, I will follow through." I hung up before she could twist the silence into something that served her. Almost instantly, my phone started buzzing. Once. Twice. Again. I didn't pick up. A text popped in from Evan. Don't blow this out of proportion. It's Thanksgiving. Another voicemail. This time my father's voice calm, but cracked at the edge. You're making this worse than it has to be, son. We're all tired. Let's not turn this into a disaster. I turned to Nona. She was already seated at the kitchen table with her notebook open again, eyes alert. Let's get to work, she said. We documented everything. The kitchen clock. The fridge stocked with 3 days' worth of meals. Her unmedicated clarity. The lack of any arranged substitute care. Every corner of the house told the same story they hadn't left by accident. They hadn't forgotten. This was deliberate. I pulled the Ring camera footage and exported clips of the empty driveway, marked the time, labeled each one. Then I saw it. Tucked under a magnet near the fridge, a piece of paper titled Emergency Contacts. Listed underneath in careful bullet points were Mom, Dad, Evan, and a neighbor I didn't recognize. At the bottom in looping cursive it read, With love from your family. I held it up. They staged this, I said. Winona nodded. Of course, if anything went wrong they'd tell people they prepared. That they left love, and you'd be the one who panicked, who made it dramatic. It wasn't about care. It never was. It was about optics, control. Guilt leveraged as a leash. They're protecting their narrative, I muttered. They always have been, she replied. The clock ticked. 20 minutes passed, then 40. At 49 minutes, my phone lit up again. Dad. This time I answered. We'll be there soon, he said. I'll swing by in a bit. Your mom's still at the venue with Evan and Lila, but I'll check in, just him. Not them. I could see it clearly. They were trying to create just enough presence to avoid legal heat, just enough to blur the lines. I stepped onto the front porch as his car rolled into the driveway. He got out slowly, hands in jacket pockets like he had nothing to hide. He offered a tight-lipped smile. Stellan. I didn't move. I'm not here to argue, he said. Just wanted to make sure everything's all right. How long are you staying, I asked. He hesitated. Not long. Just checking in. Of course. They were trying to touch base without ever taking responsibility. Inside, Nona handed me a list. Times. Names. The paper from the fridge. A fresh cup of tea. Keep it all, she said. They don't fear your anger. They fear your evidence. As Dad left, offering a vague, we'll talk later, I stayed on the porch until his car disappeared. Back inside, Nona said quietly, It's time for part 2. I looked at her. You're not going to argue anymore, she said. You're going to leave. And you're going to do it in a way that leaves them no time to rewrite the story. She led me to her bedroom. I'd barely been in there since I was a kid, the room where bedtime stories once echoed and the curtains never changed. She moved slowly but with purpose, going to the tall dresser near the window. From the bottom drawer beneath a pile of wool scarves, she pulled out a thick manila envelope and handed it to me. For 2 years, she said, I've been waiting for the right moment. I opened it. Inside, a cognitive evaluation signed by Dr. Elkins dated 6 weeks ago. Patient is lucid, stable, capable of all legal decision-making. A letter from an elder law attorney confirming active counsel. A copy of a last will and testament notarized. Several printed documents with scribbled notes and timestamps. I unfolded the will first. She'd named me primary beneficiary, with full explanation. To Stellan, my only grandchild, who saw me as a person, not a burden, who stayed not out of duty, but love. I looked up, stunned. I wanted them to underestimate me, she said. It bought me time. It bought us this. You've been planning this, I asked. She nodded. They tried for years. Little questions about signatures, casual comments about just in case. I knew what they were after, but I kept quiet. I let them think they were winning. I sank into the chair by her dresser. They wanted you isolated, she said. If you took care of me, they could paint you as unstable codependent. Easy to discredit. But the moment you stood up for me, really stood up, they'd flip it. Say you were dangerous, overwhelmed, a threat. I swallowed. That note they left. It wasn't carelessness. It was bait, she said. And now they're realizing it didn't work. She handed me another list. Here's what you need, she said. Grab your bag. Take that envelope. Get in the car and leave before they get smart enough to circle back. I nodded. The house felt like a crime scene, not chaotic, just wrong. Just engineered. I took my bag from the guest room, tucked the envelope in deep, zipped it shut. Before locking the door, I placed one last thing on the kitchen counter. A letter, short, direct. I am not abandoning Winona. She is of sound mind. This house was left empty for nearly an hour with no caregiver present. All legal steps have been taken. She is not your pawn. She is her own person. I left it right where they'd left theirs, under the salt shaker. As I pulled out of the driveway, my phone lit up again. Mom's 6 missed calls. Evan, where the hell are you? You're not taking her anywhere. Dad, voicemail, you're overreacting. Just come back and we can talk. But they weren't in charge of the story anymore. I didn't answer. I saved every message. I got on the highway heading east. Nona sat beside me. Seatbelt clicked, eyes forward. Then she said softly, like a quiet prophecy, 3 days from now they won't be looking for you in this house anymore. They'll be looking for you online. 3 days. That's how long it took for silence to turn into sirens. Winona and I didn't speak much during those days in Sanibel. We didn't need to. There was a rhythm between us, light meals, beach walks, her hands folded in her lap as she listened to the waves while I sat nearby cataloging everything, screenshots, voicemails, timestamps. Every missed call, every manipulative text, every half-hearted, "Where are you?" left dangling on the edge of guilt. "You need to let them speak," she told me, eyes closed. Voice steady. "Not to you. To the world. People tell the truth when they're panicked, they just don't mean to." On the morning of day 3, I woke to the sound of waves and war. My phone lit up like a wildfire. Mom had posted on Facebook. She never said my name. She didn't have to. The passive-aggressive tone was a signature in itself. Heartbreaking Thanksgiving. When a family member walks away from their duties, the ones who suffer most are the elderly. We had everything set: meds, food, emergency contacts, but sometimes, no matter how much you prepare, some just vanish. The comments rolled in like pitchforks. Cousin Diane. So sorry, Aunt Marianne. Some people forget what real family means. Old neighbor, Mrs. Carmichael, unbelievable. Poor Miss Winona. You raised your son better than this. It wasn't just guilt, it was strategy, a reframing. They hadn't left me holding the burden. They'd handed me a narrative, and now they were dressing it up for public consumption. I didn't flinch. I scrolled. I cataloged. Every lie carefully tucked between just enough truth to sound credible. But they didn't know I'd been documenting everything. I opened my camera roll, a photo of the note, "Let you experience caregiving," taped to the fridge. Empty driveway at 9:13 a.m., the microwave clock flashing 9:15 when I stepped in. A wide shot of the barren kitchen, another of the untouched pill organizer, doorbell camera footage time-stamped. They left before I arrived. No one returned. I sat down, opened my laptop, and drafted the post I'd hoped I wouldn't have to write, the one Winona and I had quietly been building. I titled it, "The Truth." I was asked to stop by Thanksgiving morning. I said yes, an hour, maybe 2. When I arrived, the house was empty. No one had told me they were leaving town. A note waited on the fridge. My grandmother, recovering vulnerable alone, was left without warning. I wasn't informed. I wasn't consulted. I was punished. I attached the images. Just enough. No dramatics. Facts. Timestamps. Boundaries. Caregiving should never be a weapon. And family isn't love when it's used to trap someone. I'm not telling this story for revenge. I'm telling it so it doesn't happen to someone else. I posted it, then turned off my phone. That was the first match. The fire didn't spread slowly, it exploded. Jules commented. First, I was there when Stellan got the call. It was a setup. He was blindsided. This isn't family, it's exploitation. Within hours, the post was being shared by people I didn't know. Others, caregivers, estranged children, volunteers added their own stories. Groups from outside Asheville picked it up. Blogs reposted. A local news account DM'd me. And suddenly I wasn't just dealing with my family. I was holding a mirror up to a society that hides manipulation under the banner of tradition. Then came the backlash. My father sent a cold, calculated email. Your recent actions are concerning. We ask that you stop misrepresenting the family. This emotional reaction is not only immature, it borders on defamation. Please consider your mental state before continuing. Translation: We're losing control. Let's question yours. Then Evan texted me, delete the post, or I swear to God you won't have a place in this town. We'll make sure of it. That was the moment I realized they were shifting tactics. No longer denying what they'd done now, they were attacking who I was, undermining my stability, planting seeds. Next came the accusation. We're worried about Mom. We don't think she's fully aware of what's going on. It's not safe for her to be moved around like this. Mom again. A new post. Heavily veiled, but insidious. Elderly individuals deserve safety and familiarity. It's heartbreaking when they're taken without clarity. We pray for peace and understanding. I stared at it. They were trying to paint me as someone who'd taken advantage of an old woman. Winona didn't flinch. She handed me her phone. Record me, she said. I did. In her own words, she stated the date, the location, her name. She stated that she was mentally sound, had chosen to come with me, and was aware of all implications. This isn't just a vacation, she said into the camera. This is a refuge. And I'm here because I chose to be, not because anyone tricked me. That afternoon, another bomb dropped, this time from Mom herself. A new Facebook post, we owe our son an apology. We didn't think through what we were asking. We crossed a line. We tried to make up for it with explanations instead of accountability. We're sorry. I stared at the screen. At first, I felt a pang of something. Hope, maybe. Then Winona, seated across from me on the balcony, sipped her tea and said quietly, I called her. Told her I had a medical evaluation scheduled. Told her everything I remember. She's not apologizing out of guilt, sweetheart. She's apologizing because she doesn't want a subpoena. I nodded. The timing made sense. The tone was familiar, measured, strategic. The kind of apology that tastes like ash when you say it out loud. The next morning, I got another email from my father. Despite your mother's words, you need to reflect. You won't be welcome at any family gatherings moving forward. We hope you find peace. And that's when it clicked. They weren't sorry. They were scared. They weren't reconciling. They were containing. So I made my decision. I called Jules. I'm done reasoning. They're playing chess with people's lives. I'm not moving pawns anymore. What are you gonna do? I'm getting a lawyer. She was silent for a beat. Then softly, good. As I booked my return flight to Asheville, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting to their story. I was writing mine. I landed back in Asheville just after noon, the cold sharper than I remembered. It wasn't just the weather, it was the shift. The city didn't feel like home. It felt like a crime scene waiting for a headline. I didn't go to my apartment. I went straight to the lawyer's office. David Linwood was calm, surgical. He didn't waste time with pity. I handed him the manila envelope Winona had given me, evaluations, revised will photos, timestamps. He didn't flinch. Just nodded once, then asked for access to my phone. Forensics will mirror it, he said. We don't post anything else. We don't talk to them directly. From now on, everything goes through me. Finally, someone on my side who spoke their language. Back at the hotel, I found myself replaying the voicemail I'd ignored the night before. It was from Lila. Hey, it's me. I know you probably hate me right now, but Evan's getting serious. He mentioned lawyers, too. He says you're exploiting your grandmother and that you've stolen legal control. I don't know what's true anymore, but I just thought you should know what he's planning. I stared at the wall. The gall. The sheer audacity of trying to flip the narrative after leaving a sick woman alone with a sticky note and a half-stocked fridge. But that's when it hit me, of course, they were doubling down. They had to. Because if what I held was true, they didn't just look bad, they looked criminal. I checked my email. The lab report had come in. Winona's cognitive assessment dated, signed, confirmed. No signs of dementia. Fully competent. And right under that, a scanned copy of a medical form from 3 months ago, one I'd never seen. It was a record of bruising on her left arm, logged by her physical therapist. Patient noted mild pain, said it was from being grabbed too hard. Suddenly, it wasn't just about abandonment. It was about force and neglect and silence. I called David. "You need to report that to Adult Protective Services," he said flatly, "today." I knew he was right. But before I could respond, another call buzzed in Mom. I froze. Let it ring. Then again. Then again. On the 5th ring, something in me cracked. I picked up. Her voice was composed. Too composed. "Stellan," she began. "You don't have to do this." I didn't answer. We all said things we didn't mean, she continued. "But dragging this into legal territory, do you know how that makes us look?" "I'm not dragging," I said. "I'm documenting." There was a pause. Then she dropped her tone into something colder. "You think you've won because of a few signatures and photos. You're hurting your father. You're dividing this family." I almost laughed. "You divided this family when you turned a sick woman into a pawn." Silence again. Then the line went dead. I exhaled, heart pounding. That night I filed the official report. I attached the bruising form, the note on the fridge, the emergency contact sheet written like a script. I listed every missed call, every voicemail, every threat. David would handle the next steps. But deep down I knew. This wasn't just going to be court documents and quiet settlements. They were going to come after me in ways paper couldn't catch. And I had to be ready. Sometimes after a story like this, what stays with us isn't the shock or the conflict, but the quiet question it leaves behind. How many people are carrying responsibilities they never agreed to simply because they were the closest, the kindest, the easiest to rely on? When we listen closely, we realize this isn't just one family's story. It's about boundaries, dignity, and the fragile line between care and control. And maybe it's also about how compassion doesn't have to mean losing yourself in the process. As we sit with this together, I think what matters most is not deciding who was right or wrong, but noticing how easily love can turn into obligation when no one stops to ask, "Are you okay?" We don't all get the chance to rewrite our family roles. But we do get moments, small, trembling moments, where we choose honesty over silence and self-respect over habit, even when that choice costs us something. If this story stirred anything in you, and if you feel like sharing Banko the Jelai Vai Dong o Fan Bin Luan, not to prove a point, not to explain yourself, just to be heard. And if you'd like to stay with us, listening to more stories like this, consider subscribing. Think of it as joining a quiet community where we slow down, listen, and carry these moments together. Kam on ban jan ngoi lai jen kroi. Take care of yourself and of each other. We'll meet again soon.